And we're rolling. It's Saturday, January 10th, 2026. Recorded live from the English Valley's History Center. Here's Jackie.
I'm Jackie Garinger McDermott, and we're going to start off with a feature story this morning. It's called From Rachel Tennessee Blair to Russ Bucher. Russ Bucher from North English has ancestors in his family that go back to the time of the Civil War in this area. Russ's career was as a farmer southeast of town, and his wife was a long-time, much-loved home ec teacher at English Valley's high school. Here is a picture of Russ and his late wife, Helen Bucher, who have been generous supporters of the English Valley's History Center and attended Saturday morning coffee on a regular basis. As a matter of fact, Russ is in the coffee room right now. And here's Russ and Helen Bucher. And here's a picture of their whole family taken in 2003 that is included in the North English 150-year history book. Their children are Debbie, the late Mike Bucher, and the late Sally Long. Russ's parents were Leo and Helen Bucher. Here's they are. Russ's mother, whose maiden name was Helen Miller, was a sister to Dr. Lawrence Albert Miller Sr., or Old Doc, our beloved town doctor. Her parents were the Albert Millers, and her grandparents were Mr. and Mrs. Michael Miller Jr., who farmed south of North English. Many members of the Miller family were members of the Brethren Church and came to this area from Virginia in the middle of the 1800s. And here's a picture of that Michael Miller Jr. We did an earlier story on his brother Noah Miller, whose family started the Miller Hardware in town. Much of this following information and pictures came from the North English 150 Yearbook by Scott Romine, which is also available for purchase at the English Valley's History Center. Now for the Bucher side of Russ's family. The parents of his dad, Leo Bucher, were Glenn and Lottie Long Bucher. Glenn and Lottie Long Bucher's family lived at Green Valley east of town, and Glenn's parents were Richard and Alice Smart Bucher, also of the Green Valley area. According to the Bucher family history, Richard Bucher was a bugler in the Civil War, ran the old grist mill by the bridge at Green Valley, and was also the town barber. These next Blair family and Bucher family stories are included in Dave Jackson's book, Won't You Take Me to Hinkletown, which we're trying to talk Dave into reprinting, so we will have it here to sell at the History Center again. According to a story told by Lucy Hudson Whitmore, Russ's grandparents, Glenn and Lottie Bucher, and here's a picture of them when they were younger, operated the first telephone office at Green Valley for North English to Green Valley Exchange. Lottie Bucher's father was named George William or Will Long, and her mother was Mary Adeline Blair Long, who lived to the age of 44 years in 1918, when Lottie was in her late 20s. Mary Adeline's mother was Rachel Tennessee Blair, and she lived another 20 years. Tennessee Blair will be the focus of our story today. When Russ's older brother, Bob Bucher, was born, before Tennessee Blair passed away, there were 5 generations in the family of Tennessee Blair. And here's a picture of Tennessee Blair, who was a pioneer ancestor to be proud of. Russ said he puts flowers on her grave at North English Cemetery. Rachel Tennessee Humphreys was born, as you guessed it, in Tennessee, specifically in Jones County, Tennessee, in 1853. And she lived until 1938, reaching the age of 84. Her parents were Lemuel Newton Humphreys and Catherine Morlock Humphreys. Her father served in Company K of the 60th Tennessee Confederate Volunteers. Her father was at the battles of Champions Hill, Edwards Station, Black River, and the Siege of Vicksburg, where his brother John Humphreys was killed. The 1915 Iowa County history said that Newton Humphreys was a brave and valiant soldier. After the Civil War, when Tennessee was a young teenager, the family came to Iowa, first settling in Johnson County and then later in Iowa County. Tennessee married John Blair in 1870. John was the son of Montgomery or Gum Blair and his wife Mary or Polly Carson, who had come to Iowa from the state of Tennessee by covered wagons in 1852. Tennessee's life was filled with much tragedy and much joy. She and John settled on a farm, and she gave birth to 9 children. Cordella or Cordy, Mary Adeline, Margaret or Maggie, Ethel, Blanche, Charles, Frank, Alice or Allie, and Harley. Tennessee's mother passed away in 1874 when Rachel Tennessee Blair was not 21 years old yet. Then a tragedy occurred in Tennessee's own little family in 1880 when their daughter Margaret or Maggie died at age 5 with spinal meningitis. The young Blair family moved to Iowa County in 1884, where both sets of grandparents resided. According to Dave Jackson, our Hinkletown historian, John Blair, Tennessee's husband, rode from Hinkletown to North English on November 10, 1891, to celebrate the election of Governor Boyce. His friends put him on his horse to send him back to Hinkletown after way too much to drink. He fell off his horse on the way. They found him and placed him sitting in someone's barn to sober up. The next morning they found John Blair dead. The coroner determined John Blair died from a broken neck, having fallen off his horse while in a state of intoxication. Tennessee's 8 remaining children were all under 20 years old, and daughter Mary Adeline had just married Will Long the year before. Tennessee lived with her children in this house in the backyard of the present Dave Jackson property in Hinkletown, which later became the same house where Bertha Ballard, another widow, raised her 9 children. And here's a picture of Bertha Ballard standing in front of that house that had earlier been lived in by Tennessee Blair. And here is Elsie Ballard standing in front of that same house. Rachel Tennessee Blair became the carpet maker of Hinkletown. She constructed carpets from wool and from rags. And during those years, people came from all over in their buggies to buy woven carpets from Tennessee Blair. The children attended Hickory Ridge School through 1906. And here is a picture of Tennessee with the 8 children in about 1917. Front row, left to right, Charles L. Blair, Rachel Tennessee Blair, and Harley Blair. In the back row are Blanche O'Rourke, Mary Adeline Long, Alice or Allie Smith, Sarah Ethel Mall, Franklin Blair, and Cordella or Cordy Dusenberry. Tennessee Blair continued carpet manufacturing at Hinkletown through at least 1904, as indicated by an area family account. She lived in Hinkletown until 1907 when her father died. In 1914, she moved to a little house she bought in North English on Clark Street, right next door to Lib Wade's sister Sarah Myrtle Claypool Mall and her husband J.J. Mall. Tennessee's son Harley was still with her when they moved to town. Tennessee spent the rest of her life in North English and was described on a later census as a washerwoman. Tennessee endured many more tragedies over the years. Her brother John Humphreys was a blacksmith at Millersburg, and he took his own life in 1895 at age 38 with strychnine. Tennessee's stepmother, Celia Reed Humphreys, also passed away that same year, leaving Tennessee's 2 younger stepbrothers without a mother. Her brother George Humphreys died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound in 1921 at age 55. In Tennessee's own little family, her daughter Mary Adeline Long passed away after a long illness at the age of 44 in 1918. Tennessee had been helping to care for Mary. Mary's children included Lottie Bucher, who was Russ Bucher's grandma, and John Long, who was married to my great aunt Louise Claypool Long. John and Louise Long's granddaughter Mary Wade is one of our weekly listeners, so she is also a descendant of Tennessee Blair. Tennessee's nephew, Rain Humphrey, died in 1918 of influenza and pneumonia when he was stationed in Virginia. Tennessee's youngest son, Harley Blair, committed suicide with strychnine the next year at age 28. Tennessee lost another child in 1923 when daughter Blanche O'Rourke passed away at age 42 from pernicious anemia after being sick for 2.5 years. They were trying to give her a blood transfusion when she died. Tennessee also lived to see the death of her son Frank Blair at age 45 in 1928. According to his obituary in the North English Record, Frank had a hip joint disease for which he underwent numerous operations and suffered untold pain. Frank was a very hard worker even though he was lame, and had felt pretty good for 4 years when he suddenly had recurring pain and died from sepsis as Dr. Geiger was preparing to operate on him. Frank and his wife, Nell Carter Blair, had 8 children, with 6 of them still at home when Frank passed. Some of Frank Blair's descendants are my distant cousin from Belle Plaine, Mike Kaufman, and his brothers. So the Kaufman brothers are also descendants of Tennessee Blair. Tennessee learned something crucial through all those years of loss: how to work, how to endure, how to hold on when everything else falls apart. Rachel Tennessee Blair also had much joy in her life. At the time of her passing, she had 25 grandchildren, 36 great-grandchildren, and 1 great-great-grandchild, Robert Leroy Bucher, who is Russ's older brother. The family had huge family reunions on the extended Blair side of the family each year, which were still happening when Lib Wade attended one with her niece Louise Long in 1950. A good example of the Blair reunions was in 1930 and 1931, when as many as 170 people who attended the reunion at Hinkletown School that featured a picnic and an afternoon program. Tennessee's children and grandchildren had birthday parties for her often in her elderly years, and hosted a surprise birthday party for her on her 80th birthday. Tennessee's 4 remaining children were close to her, with daughter Allie coming for 6 weeks to care for Tennessee in 1934 when she was ill, until her sister Cordy Dusenberry took over the nursing care of their mother. Son Charles came from out of state another year to visit for a week. And here is a picture of Tennessee with 3 of her great-grandchildren, Harold Bucher, Gail Long, and Leo Bucher. According to the digital archives of the Iowa County newspapers, in 1937, Tennessee fell on the ice and was down for over 30 minutes before someone saw her, but she recovered to live another year. According to Tennessee's obituary, her philosophy of life was work. Just a few weeks ago, she was piecing together a quilt. She leaves her family, together with many other relatives and friends who are numbered by the scores, and who will sincerely mourn her departure. And here's a picture of Tennessee Blair again. Now we're going to go on to the diaries. This diary was written by my Libby Wade. She was my dad's great aunt, and her full name was Mary Elizabeth Claypool Wade. She was 75 years old in September of 1950. And here's a picture of Lib taken earlier that year at that Blair reunion. She is on the left with her nephew, Jaunty Claypool. Her niece, Louise Claypool Long, her nephew. This thing's looping on me again. I gotta stop it. Slow down. Stop it. Okay. She is on the left, then her nephew, Jaunty Claypool, her niece, Louise Claypool Long, her nephew, Otis Claypool, her niece, Bertha Claypool Geringer, my grandma. September 9th, 1950. Much warmer, cloudy. Looks rainy, but it don't come. I was busy all forenoon. Cleaned the kitchen floor and did several things, then got dinner. We had fish. I cooked the last of them today. Did some crochet work. Mary Newhouse stopped in. I sent for another ball of red crochet cotton. Mary Newhouse is the younger woman in this picture in the back row. She was Lib's neighbor and 71 years old in 1950. She often takes mail to the post office for Lib. Minnie Zilmer came over to visit on the porch. She expects 2 patients most any day now. Mrs. Carson is not getting along very well. Mr. Carson had a bad spell a few days ago. Had been painting screens and was overtired, I guess. Minnie said her nephew, George Patterson, has passed the physical exam and may be called any time to go. A lot of our young men will go. Elmina, or Minnie Patterson Zilmer, is the 60-year-old widow who lives across the street with her father, George Patterson. Her house will be owned in later years by her daughter, Ada Evers, and her husband, Bud. They were the parents of Shirley Baines from North English and her children who graduated from North English, Gary, Kelly, Lonnie, and Cindy Baines. Minnie Zilmer does nursing care for her neighbors in the house west of her, W.C. Carson and his wife, Belle. And here's a picture of W.C. and Belle Carson with Pearl Warner in the middle. You guys tired or what?
No. Just me.
Anna wrote that Arlen will go too. He wants to go in the Navy, he thinks, and is trying to get changed to that. Anna Cray is Lib's daughter from Texas, and she's shown in this picture here with her husband, Richard. Arlen Cray is her son, and Arlen did end up going to the Navy. Mrs. Perrin, or Donna Moffat, has moved a week ago to Mrs. Calvert's rooms. Saw her and her 3 little ones go past here yesterday. Donna Moffat Perrin was a sister to Silver Moffat and to Ruth Claypool from the North English area and others. Mrs. Bolt stopped a while, had been to see Lucille Bickford, and also visited Mrs. Kuhneman, who is not well. Elizabeth, or Lizzie Geiger Bolts, is Lib's 89-year-old neighbor, who often stops by to visit and or to eat with Lib and Russell. Lucille Bickford was the wife of Lloyd Bickford, and they were longtime North English residents. Mrs. Kuhneman had been married to the owner of the North English Record. I gave Mrs. Bolt some fish we had left from dinner. She heard that one of the Oakes brothers had died today up near Millersburg. Evelyn and Kathy were here for supper time. She brought some fresh peach pie. Delicious. Evelyn brought her hot pad dish to see if I could make one. Pretty. And here's Evelyn Wade Kurtz. She's Lib's young married granddaughter. And Kathy Kurtz is Evelyn's daughter. This is her graduation picture. They know that Lib is just crazy about fresh vegetables and fruits. Libby does excellent needlework and likes to try to do things, to make things without a pattern. Russell went up to the home lumber company tonight. Lib lives with her youngest son, Russell Wade, and he works as a truck driver and a laborer at the home lumber company, which is a block and a half north of their house. Sunday, September 10th, 1950. Cloudy. The street is wet here, so there must have been a little rain during the night. Russell slept late, and I didn't call him. He is tired and about sick from the dust, etc. Mr. Belstrasser came. He wanted something from the lumber yard, so Russell got up and went with him. They have moved into the house that was built for Bess Baird. His mother owned it after Bess died until her own death. He and his wife and one child have recently lived in Minnesota. Bruce came to see Russell about something, and after dinner, Russell went away. If you noticed, it's Sunday, and people are wanting items from the lumber yard, and Russell's boss and friend, Bruce Warner, came to the house to see him. There's a picture of Bruce. In the years after the war, businesses worked long, hard hours to get the economy going again. Took the washing over to Lila. Lila Cobb is on the left in this picture. She's the mother of Lib's grandson by marriage, Glenn Cobb. Picture of Joan Mall in the Cedar Rapids paper today. She is to marry Donald Schwartzendruber of Wellman, and they will live in Iowa City. She is Floyd and Blanche Mall's daughter. Jo Mall Schwartzendruber was the daughter of the Floyd Malls of Kyoto. The Malls formerly lived in the Green Valley area where Lib taught when she was younger. I sat on the porch a while. The Van D's seem to be having a reunion at the hall this p.m. Mary Newhouse came along. She brought some ice cream and visited a while. She said Henry and Carrie were at Mary's today. The IOF hall was on the other side of the Miller Implement Building, just west of Lib's house. So she can see who goes up the back stairs to the hall. Henry and Carrie Wade were friends from the Green Valley area who had come to town to see their mutual friend Mary Regseger, who was previously very ill. The Wades are distant relatives to Mary also. And here's a picture of Mary Regseger when she was young. She's on the right. Russell went out to Mildred's, I think, in the p.m. And Mildred Race is on the left in this picture, and she was Russell's girlfriend. I wrote to Anna. Nothing I could write that sounded good to me. Arlen is to go away soon, and Burl has the same to look forward to as soon as he is old enough. No future for anyone under the present conditions, and it may last a long time. Lib is very worried about the escalating Korean conflict and that her grandsons may very well be involved as soldiers. Verl Cray is her youngest grandson from Texas, and here's a picture of him. September 11th, 1950, my sister's birthday, 1869, and also Lou Pettibone's. She was 6 years older, if I remember right. Sarah Myrtle Claypool Mall is Lib's only sister and is the mother in this picture. Lou Pettibone, on the top right in this picture, was the great-grandmother of my listener Sharon Wilhite Hagen from Williamsburg. Lou and her husband, Oscar Leroy Carter Pettibone, lived in the Yankee Point area where Lib was raised. Lucy, or Lou Claypool Pettibone, was Lib's first cousin, the daughter of her uncle Samuel Claypool. This is a dark, gloomy morning. Rained a little, but looks like it is clearing off at 8 a.m. I got dinner and then crocheted some. Alice Van Auken was in a while. After dinner and dishes done, I went back to my crochet work. Alice Van Auken was a neighbor and a reporter for the Iowa County newspapers, so she sometimes visited to see if Lib had any news for the social column. Marion, Wade, and Maggie came. Maggie was over to Hattie's. They're trying to find a place for her father, Ernie Weimer, for the winter. She said she thought he might go over there, but not sure yet. Marion Long Wade was Lib's great niece, the daughter of Louise Claypool Long and John Long. Marion was married to Francis Wade, and they are the parents of my weekly listener, Mary Wade from Cedar Rapids, and her siblings. Maggie Wade was the mother-in-law of Marion Wade, and here's a picture of Maggie Wade with some of her grandkids. Maggie Wade was Francis Wade's mother and also the mother of the late Max Wade from North English. So Maggie Wade was the grandmother of my faithful listener, Marcia Wade Vincent from Lena, Illinois. And here is a picture of Francis Wade on the left, Max Wade, Maggie Wade, and her husband Harrison Wade holding Karen Wade. Maggie had been down to the home of Lib's friend Hattie Killian on Boland Avenue because Hattie runs a boarding house and they might need somewhere for Maggie's father, Ernie Weimer, who is on the right side of this picture, to spend the winter. Marion said that Charlotte is now in California and that Johnny was still there the last she knew, was expecting a trip soon. Charlotte Long Blevins is Marion's youngest sister, so Lib's great niece. And Johnny Long is Marion's younger brother, John Wendell Long, so he is Lib's great nephew. I received a card today from Dale from Honolulu, Hawaii, dated September 2nd. Lib writes to the former neighbor kid, Dale Bishop, who is in the service now. John and Louise are home from a trip to Kansas and Colorado. John and Louise Long, they're in this picture. Louise Claypool Long is Lib's niece, the daughter of her brother Benton Claypool, and John Long is the grandson of Tennessee Blair, who we mentioned in the first story tonight. Saw in the paper tonight the names of John Francis and Marvin L. Geringer, who enlisted for 4 years in the Air Force, and also Laverne Wilkerson. They are sent to Camp Hood, Texas. John Francis Geringer was my dad and Lib's great nephew. He was in the Air Force, later stationed in Germany. My dad's brother Marvin Geringer and Laverne or Squirt Wilkerson enlisted together, hoping they would be stationed together. That did not happen. This picture is taken in Japan with Marvin Geringer, Laverne or Squirt Wilkerson, and J.B. Miller, who was another serviceman from North English. Russell's stomach is bothering him again. He is tired and went to bed early. We had oysters for supper, the first of this season. Marion said that she had heard that Norman Bishop's twins were in Kinross and that Norman was going or had gone to the Navy. I wonder. Mrs. Jenny Harper is visiting Hattie. Jenny Harper is the second from the left in the back row, and she's Hattie Killian's aunt, and she has been living in another state since her husband Clyde Harper died. September 12th, 1950. Fuel oil, 15-gallon. The family heats with fuel oil, and it is delivered to a barrel outside the house. Cold and dark and gloomy. I have been sewing a little on the machine. Not too good for my foot, but it hurts anyway, so I'll use it. Hemmed some of Russell's overalls. Cooked rice for dinner. Russell's stomach is not so good again, and he can eat rice. After dinner and dishes washed, I was reading the book that Maud brought, The Wall Between, a library book, real good. Maud Claypool is married to Lib's nephew, Ray Claypool, and Maud keeps Lib supplied with reading materials. Stella was here quite a while. I bought a piece of meat for her. She had it in the locker. Mrs. Bolts was here. Stella Wallace is a widowed neighbor and the mother of Lib's daughter-in-law, Lena Wallace Wade, the wife of second son, Warner Mike Wade. She had put her meat in the locker just 2 doors down from Lib's house and now was selling some of her excess to Lib. Elsie Miller came. She went last Sunday with Zephyr to Cedar Falls. They took Patty up to college. She enrolled for 9 months. Zephyr teaches the Green Valley School. Keith is the only one at home with her now. Lily Netzer rode with them to Cedar Falls. Elsie Miller is an old friend of Lib's from the Green Valley area. Here's a picture of her with her husband. And Zephyr Netzer is Elsie's daughter. Zephyr Netzer is married to Patsy Netzer, and her children are Mervyn, Patty, and Keith Netzer. And there's Zephyr. And Lily Netzer is Zephyr's mother-in-law and the grandmother of Bonnie Netzer Romine from the English Valley History Center Board. Russell was down to George Dennison's this p.m. and learned that Tommy Mall was brought to the Pearsall Cemetery and buried today. The family will feel better about it now. He was first buried at Mount Pleasant before his folks knew of his death. Hattie and Mrs. Jenny Harper were here a while this evening and then went to lodge. Bessie Dennison sent me some peaches. George and Bessie Dennison were the parents of my Aunt Shirley Geringer and of Martha Moffett, Sarah Moffett, Helen Dennison, Ross Dennison, and Bud Dennison. That's the end of the diaries for today. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes to keep the History Center operating. This includes cataloging sessions, creating displays, coordinating and preparing monthly programs, responding to requests for family and community histories, keeping up with the social media, finances, cleaning, maintenance, and providing treats for programs. There's a whole lot more activity that supports the center operations and is largely contributed to the time and effort of the board of directors and volunteers. The History Center board is composed of Dave Jackson, president, Scott Romine, vice president, Bonnie Romine, secretary, Don Banning, treasurer, and directors, Carolyn Elwood, Shelley Gerard, Alan Ackerman, and Dan Best. Please send donations to the English Valley's History Center, P.O. Box 70, North English 52316. This is a reminder that the next alumni luncheon group will meet at the Main Street Pub and Grub in North English in April. Please contact Linda Holden Carter or Alice Flooring Stramer for reservations as the time approaches. And here is a list of the programs that will be featured at the English Valley's History Center in 2026. For more information, you could join the English Valley's History Center Facebook page or do a pause on this screen if you're watching on YouTube. We will have more details on each program as time approaches. Correspondence. Mark Claypool from Sigourney said, "Jackie, each week you shine and continue to make the town proud of you and your accomplishments. Proud that you are family." Our condolences this week to the family of Tressa Slabaugh. She was Tressa Cobb when she and her twin sister, Treva, graduated from English Valley's High School in 1958. And here's their pictures. We are also interested in learning about historical English Valley's items that you might wish to donate to the History Center. Please contact Dave Jackson, Scott Romine, or any board member to donate. And that's a wrap, and I'm going to shut it off by myself.